I think. Let me wait and see. Oop, I'm on the wrong side. Yep, there we go. I think it's good to go, but I'm gonna wait for it to get going. Hey Enrique, where's the stream? All right, okay, so that one's working. What about the YouTube? Be great if you were working also. That would make me very delighted. There we go. Fantastic. All right, we're good to go. Good morning to my West Coast friends, and good day to everyone else. Today, we're going to be working on a system we've been working on for a teeny little bit, and basically it answers questions that I get quite a bit, and I want to put it on my personal website. At some point, eventually. I only really work on it for 1 hour a week, so it's you know, it'll happen when it happens. Anyway, but the code is available on GitHub. The link should be, yep, the link is in the video description, so if you would like to you know, get that running locally, that is very much an option. So, today we have a existing action that we are going to extend. Hello, Albert. Naeem says, looking forward to a great learning. Me too. I hope this goes well. You never know with live coding, right? It's a little bit you know, it's like sitting down to any other coding project. Could go great and be very easy. More likely there will be some snags along the way, and we can enjoy those learning opportunities together. So I apparently didn't write any doc strings. Oh, there. Okay. I did. I wrote a doc string for this class. This class ain't got nothing. Let me see if I can get you to go away real quick so I can actually see my whole line of code. So right now we have a an action, this query resource type that will query a database. It's a database, yeah, it's a SQLite version of this CSV, which has 5 fields, title, author, URL, topic, type, and level. And these are pieces of information about each of these resources, learning resources. So we have a book, speech and language processing, another book, text mining with R, a website course, Kaggle courses, a website course, FastAI, a website course, Rasa for beginners, and some videos, NLP for devs. And then on other pieces of information, there's the thing, the title, the author's the link to the pieces of information, the subject, so NLP, Rasa, machine learning, the format, book, intro, course, videos, and then the level. So intro to intermediate, intro to advanced, and then intro. So right now we can only query one of these fields, and that is type. So whether we're looking for a book or a course or a videos, I should say. And what I want to do is extend our query so that we could say, hey, I want something about NLP, for example, or I want something about Rasa, rather than just being able to say, I want a book, period. And we did a little bit of setup last week. So if you look here in our entities, we added some entities, NLP, machine learning, and Rasa. And it is, these are entities, and then we have a slot resource type that can be filled with NLP, ML, or Rasa, and that's categorical. And I don't remember how we filled those slots. So let's go over to... Yeah, I think so. When we detect these entities in text, I think we save them to this slot. And we did it last week and the capitalization didn't matter. That's what I'm vaguely remembering. And then if we look at our NLU, all of these go in the inform intent, and then various entities are mapped to, various pieces of text are mapped to this entity. So AI is mapped to machine learning is mapped to machine learning, NLP is mapped to NLP, language technology is mapped to NLP. How you spell language? That may or may not be how you spell language, but it doesn't matter. And then the resource types we were already extracting. So what I want to do today is I want to add the ability to query the topic in addition to the type of material. And ideally, we should do it in kind of a good way so that even if, oh no, my actions, I closed my actions. So that even if someone asks for a, let me write myself a little note here in the comments so I can put down all of the thoughts that I have. So, to query more than one field / column at a time, and this is a tabular data set. I know a lot of y'all are working with like Postgres and more tree-based data structures, but I mean you could extend this as needed in other languages. I don't want to put like Postgres a whole bunch, but I think it should be very doable. Mostly I've worked with SQL. Query more than one field column at a time, or flat text files, which are the other things that NLP folks tend to use a lot, is just flat text files. There we go, move the mic in. Okay, if nothing matches both fields, return results that match at least one, and allow, I guess data validation is what I want to do. So what I'm thinking here is that if somebody enters some text, right? So if they say video instead of videos, I still want to return the videos field. So data validation for close but not exact matches. So the reason that I want to do that, and I would say that this is not always going to be a good idea for every sort of database query that you might be doing as part of your development process for an assistant, particularly something that's like internal to a company where people like probably have a little bit more familiarity with the data set. But this is just a simple way for me to have people learn information about specific pieces of learning material that I think are particularly good, and the likelihood that they're going to be super familiar with my data organization and like the fields and values in my particular personal little SQLite database that I built is extremely low. So I want it to be easy for people to be able to get their questions answered, basically. So I'm going to err on the side of trying not to return no value as often as possible, if that makes sense. So that's sort of my thinking through this design process. I probably wouldn't do return something that's just sort of close for something like customer support, where if you're looking up someone's account, you want to make sure that it is the person's account that you mean to look up and not just someone who happens to have the same name and live in the same state. All right, so let's look at what we have so far. So we have this with no docstring, and it relies on this. So we have a class database querying methods. That's a weird class name. No one ever said I was the world's best object-oriented programmer. So we have this database querying methods class, and in it we create a connection to our SQLite database, so that we can send our queries in. All right, and if it doesn't work, we print an error. Otherwise, we return the connection. And then we select by slot. So I believe that slot here is the name of the slot. Oops, sorry. Let me just mute that so we don't hear a bunch of Slack notifications. Query all rows in the task table. Did I write these doc strings? I don't. I only vaguely remember doing this. It was last year. All right, and then the DB file we are passing in, and in this project, it is in edu_db, and then it's resources.db, I think. And I think we also have I think we also have a Jupyter notebook. Yeah. Okay, so we have a Jupyter notebook to test these things and make sure they work, which we will probably want to use again in the future. Just when we're sort of messing around and trying stuff out. Okay, I'm just familiarizing myself with my code again. Okay, so we create a connection to the database, passing in this database file. And then this kicks in a connection, a slot name, and a slot value. Okay, so the slot name is the column, right? So I believe up here we are using type. Yep. So type is like book, video, course. And we're taking in the slot value. And then we are selecting all the rows where the slot name has that slot value. All right. And if there are no results returned given that query, then we say that there's no results. And if results are returned given that query, then we have a little F string here that takes in the randomly samples one of the rows and then converts sort of all of those, pieces of random text data into a parsable sentence. And I believe we have an example here where the output is try the videos NLP for Devs by Rachel Tapman. So try the videos here is taken from the type slot. This is taken from the title slot. This is taken from the author slot. And this is taken, not the slot, sorry, the field in the selected row, and this is taken from the link slot. So yeah. Okay, so I'm thinking about what I want to do. New glasses. Yeah, actually, during quarantine, I dropped my glasses a long distance, and thankfully they did not break. But as a result, I bought a couple pairs, so I'm rotating in and out. Also, I don't know if any of you, I've never actually seen this, but apparently there's a Twilight Zone episode where this guy just wants to be like left alone so that he can read, and then for some reason all the people disappear from Earth, and then he drops his glasses and steps on them. So he has all the time to read, but his glasses are broken, so he can't read. And sometimes I think about that and I'm like, I should have a backup pair of glasses. Not that I want everyone to disappear. That would be rough. I don't, that's not a situation that I want to occur. Okay. So I get what we're doing so far. So some things I'm thinking about. Thing number one, I don't want to return text in the same function where I return rows. Does this make sense? So right now, the output of this this function here that I'm reusing in the section up here, where we're just going through and getting like a specific, we're getting a specific column, and then we're looking at a slot from our assistant, and then we're trying to look for the value of that slot in this column, and then returning the results, etc. I don't care about that right now. I think refactoring this DB querying methods class is going to be our best shot to make this good and doable. So I think what I want to do, so just thinking through the process, what I want to do is I want to be able to So there's a couple ways that I could do this. I think the order that makes the most sense is I first try to query something that matches all the slots. And I can do that by using the select by slot option. Let me write this down. I'll probably eventually, I'll either like move these to a doc string or get rid of them, but I find that like writing down what I'm doing in code comments is really helpful because I get distracted. You know, when you go get coffee and you come back and you're like, what the heck was I working on? I don't know if you drink coffee, but that's usually why I leave my desk and come back. Multi-field query process. So I think the thing that makes sense is first look for both. Second, look for either. Third, try hi old player, fuzzy matching to get the closest to find acceptably close results. Spelling is fake. Fourth, return no results. So why am I doing it in this order? So really what I'm thinking about is scale here. You want to, return. So if we get multiple results that match, we are just randomly selecting one. If we want to return the fewest results possible. So results that match both the query fields are going to be the least numerous. And if we can find that, that's ideal. We just return that to the users. If we can't find that, then we should look for things that match one or the other. Inform, not perfect match. So I think we should also tell users that we weren't able to find the specific thing that they wanted. And if we can't do that, then we should try fuzzy matching. So something that would match videos to video. And it wouldn't matter which one you were doing. And then finally, if we can't get anything that kind of works there, then we will be like, hey, sorry, there's nothing in the database. So I think this will be, the reason that I'm doing the fuzzy matching third and not first is if we can do something computationally efficient, I want us to default to that instead, because fuzzy matching is a little bit slow, but I do want to be able to help people who maybe made a typo, or I don't expect the people who are using this assistant to know what's in the database, right? Because then why would they be asking? So given that, if they do know what's in the database, we should use that to get them their results faster. And if they don't, we should try and figure out what they were trying to say only if we need to. So that's my thinking there for a way that makes sense. It does mean that you're going to run multiple queries. Because I mean, ideally you want to do the thing first that you think is going to happen most often so that you can avoid running multiple queries as much as possible. But I think most of the time, because our database is so small right now, I don't think we're going to be able to find results that match both of them for most folks most of the time, yeah? But I still think it makes sense because I want this project to be able to scale, and the bigger the data set becomes, the more likely someone is going to be able to find a result that matches in the first step. So if I genuinely think that the majority of the time, the other way that we could do this would be, I could run 2 queries, one for match field A, one for match field B, and then return those results and look for an overlap and return the overlap. The benefit of that is that if you, especially if you're caching the data, then regardless of whether or not we use like step 1 or step 2, we're going to be running the same number of queries. The downside is that we'll have to hold more stuff in memory and we'll be querying data that we may not actually need most of the time. See, if this was already deployed, I could just like look at the usage and figure out which one was going to be most practical. Or if I had like a database that I knew people were querying, I could look at the logs and be like, oh yeah, okay. Most of the time people do X and not Y, but I don't have that information. And I think this approach makes sense. I think this approach makes sense. Yeah, I'm happy with this. It's maybe a little bit, I don't know why I want to say that it's hacky. I don't think it's that hacky. It's just like one option and there are other options. Also, if any of y'all have ever had to put together a design doc, it's this, but you write it all down and people leave a bunch of margin comments and you sort of hash out what you're going to do in a specific situation. Enrique says, like, tilde, nope, that's a percentage sign, title, percentage sign, I guess. Oh yeah, I could use like. Thank you, Enrique. Also, that is not how you spell use. Ooh, I mean, it's how I spelled use that time. I am dyslexic, and sometimes it's a little bit more obvious than other times. You'd like to find acceptably close results. Yeah. I think that's actually going to be a lot easier than. I think that's going to be a lot easier than fuzzy matching. That does mean worst case scenario 3 queries, right, to get the information back. And I mean, this is a very small, lightweight data set. It doesn't have a lot of fields. It doesn't have a lot of rows. Even if I add a lot of extra data, it's still not going to have that many fields, and it's all going to be. So what I'm thinking about is usually if you have a big database, right? You're queried by scanning. So you query at you're paying not for the data that you return, but for the data that you look at. So having 3 separate queries on a very large database, in a worst case scenario, can end up being very expensive. But yeah, no. If you did them in the opposite order, so if your database provider provides caching, so your query results are saved, would there be enough overlap for them to work? Because this will return the most query results, this will return fewer query results, this will return the fewest query results. Check Race Mate said, I would consider all of use an acceptable usage. I am not from a place in the US where, so that is use. So that is second person plural in some places in the US, but I'm a y'aller. I'm from, you may have noticed, the South. I don't live in the South right now. I live in Seattle. You know what? I'm fine with it. Let's just go with this implementation, and if it ends up not working real great, we can go forward with that. Where is used from? I want to say it's from Philly is yins, right? I want to say it's northern cities, but not my dialect. But all dialects are great. Hi, Buena Holly, good to see you. So first things first, let's go back to here and break this into two things. So so I am just taking this so that the querying is one function and the returning the results in human readable text is a second function, because I don't want to return the results in human readable text every time I run a query, particularly since I'm going to be running it multiple times. Gwen Polly says, me and my professor designed an architecture for form validation in 30 lines. Oh, fun. Can we publish it? Yeah, of course. Rasa's open source. Feel free. But send me a link. I want to read it. I'm trying to remember if we have a paper just for like the Rasa NLU framework. I think most people tend to cite like the website. But yeah, no. We love to have research that builds on Rasa, and I always enjoy reading it. So please go ahead. All right, so rereading this. Let's call this rows as human rows info as text, and I'm going to say all it takes in is the rows, because I don't need to know what the database is, because this is yeah. Okay, so this should be I don't actually, do we import pandas? I'm trying to remember what data structure this is, and I think it's a list. So I don't think we need to import anything specific. I don't think we need to like use the connection to just look at the list of results that we've returned. So we shouldn't need that. All we should need is the rows that they're passing in. Let me actually do a docstring because I have not been super great about them in this particular project. Return one of the rows passed in as human readable text if multiples if there are returns text to that effect. So this is just what's taking the information from our database and making it human readable. All right, so so the first thing that we want to do is great. Okay, so what we've just done is we've broken this up a little bit. So the query results are just query results, and then we are converting them into return text via the function that we just wrote, rows info is text, and then the dispatcher. So this is part of the Rasa SDK. The dispatcher is what sends messages to the assistant to say to users, says, you know, whatever it is that we got out of this function given these slots as input. Create connection. I think that's the only thing we need to change here. Yeah. So we are, I don't know that we're going to be using this long term, but let's actually quickly just write a little just quickly run our assistant to make sure that it does work. Make sure I'm in the directory where my assistant is. Yep, got all the files I need. Run the action server. Oh, someone had a question about the action server recently and not being able to close it in the command line, so this will be a good chance for me to adjust that. And then Rasa shell. All right, good, it is up and running. No errors there, so I didn't make any obvious syntax errors. Endpoint. There we go. Okay. So let's talk to our assistant and see if we can query our database using our refactored function that we changed a little bit. Okay, so this is what we're doing right now. When we see this information about what do you want, when we see this query, when the intent asking for a resource is detected, we ask what type of resource they want, book, course, or video. So I'm going to say book, and hopefully we'll query our database and nothing happened. No errors. Interesting. Oh, it's frozen. It was not actually frozen. I just couldn't tab up or use the up arrow. Let me try book uppercase because it could be a keysync issue. That's not it. Cool. All right, something's gone wrong. Yeah, no. I was thinking maybe I had somewhere forgotten to update this to this variable name, but I definitely had not. Select by slot is definitely the one that returns the query values. Interesting. All right, so I think what I want to do is Control C. Yeah, no, that isn't working. All right. Someone was saying there's another shortcut that worked for them. Enrique says stories. Yeah, it's, we can check the stories. So when we, I'm pretty sure, because we ask for the resource type, right? Then we should get the query. And it's not happening. So I am wondering if we turn on logging, we can see what happens. Because this was it worked last week. Famous last words. It worked last week. And I want to know what's going on. Okay. New action in the domain. It should. So all I've changed is I've refactored within the same actions in my Python code, in my action server, so it shouldn't change the output. Oop, nope, not what I wanted. And this is the exact, yeah, okay, so that's the exact flow that's in here. Nothing there. Interesting. All right, let's turn on logging for our, not what I wanted to do. Yeah, no, thank you. Actually, that is in fact not what I wanted. There we go. So I'm going to turn on logging for my Rasa assistant as well and see what's happening. And I shouldn't need to retrain because I haven't changed anything. All right, so let's see what it did with that. Topic or type. Ooh, that actually should have been set from the entity. So perhaps I do need to actually match the casing, because right now the entities that can be filled with are uppercase and the entity names are lowercase. So I think I might have actually messed up there, but blah, 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 blah. Intent, ask resource. Yep, so that is the correct intent, pretty high confidence. All right, and then I'm going to say book. All right, and this is where it goes off the rails. So why is it going off the rails? Okay, so conversation lock, fine. Received user message with intent. It's extracting the resource type, which is good. It's the inform intent, which is correct. So you can see here we have this inform intent. Is what our story expects. So far, so good. No applicable rules. Yeah, it's a story, not a rule. So in our stories.yaml, not our rules.yaml. Actually, the name doesn't matter a whole bunch. You can just see that it's under this heading story, so it's a story. It's predicting the next action using a rule policy. Default fallback. Interesting. There is no memorized next action. There is, though. There is, in fact, a memorized next action. All right, so what is weird for me here is that we have been following this little pattern exactly. So we should be triggering the memoization policy. And the memoization policy is saying, oh, I've never seen this before in my life. Let's see if, okay, so let's go to our config. Memoization rule policy, type policy. I'm gonna go with the docs, rasa.com/docs. I'm gonna add an augmented memoization policy, which is going to add also a bunch of stuff that's been sort of chunked up into smaller chunks. And I don't remember. Well, we talked about it with Ella, I believe, in office hours. So, augmented memoization policy. Pew, get big. Remembers examples from training stories for up to max history turns, just like the memoization policy. In addition, it has a forgetting mechanism that will forget in a certain amount of steps in a conversation history and try to match your stories. Oh. There we go. That's what I want. Okay. Stick you back over here. That's not great. Okay, we will make it work. So I'm gonna add and then the parameter about max underscore history. And I'm gonna say it's, because this is very much like an FAQ bot, so I'm gonna say the max history is gonna be 2. All right, and since we're gonna be retraining anyway, let me go in here and make these lowercase as well. Although they were extracted correctly, it's just gonna make me happier if they're lowercase so that we're a little bit more consistent. All right, so peace out, and then open a new terminal. Oh. Have they? Nope, it's frozen again. Well, all right. I guess I'll wait for VS Code to finish crashing. I wonder if this might be a Chrome thing. So eventually, let's just reopen it. Eventually, there we go. We're going to be able to retrain our assistant. There we go. Just quickly make sure we're in the right directory. We are. We're going to retrain our assistant and see if that helps. It's very odd that the rule policy was triggering and the memoization policy wasn't. So the reason I've added the augmented memoization policy is so that we'll just look at the little snippets that are hopefully the most relevant snippets from conversations we've seen before. Daniel says, are you using Conda plus VS Code plus Windows? I am. Hi, Nick. All right, let's give this another shot. Rasa run action. So start the action server. While that's happening, Rasa shell, and I actually don't need full logging. I'll just do the less big logging. All right, you good? You good. Fantastic. All right, and check you out. So good so far. I want to learn NLP. So the reason that we're not getting output from our database query back is that the action that queries the database is not being triggered. So I'm going to say I want a book, and this is exactly the conversation for our stories, so it should be triggered correctly, and it was not. Let's get some more logging in here and see what's up. So we can tell that it's kind of working, right? Because we're asking for, if we look at our stories, the user's asking for a resource. The assistant is asking for the type of resource. The user is using the inform intent, and we're getting here, and the slot was set. So I'm wondering if the slot's not being set, and that's our issue, potentially. And then as a result, this query resource type is not being correctly locked. All right, so I forget what we were doing. What was the last thing I said? I can't know. I cannot up arrow. All right, I want to learn ML. All right, so identified as ask resource with high confidence. Yes, that's what we're looking for. No resource topic, no resource type. This should be... Okay, so ML is was detected as an entity, with high confidence, but this is not stuck in the slot, but we can handle that later. That's not my issue right now. And then what do we do next? First, we launch the DeLorean. Resource entities ML. Tracker state, ask resource. And then the TED policy is utter ask type. Yep, which is correct given our given stories. All right, and then we ask the user what they want. And then we listen. All right, so at this point, I need to say, I want a book. Okay, and what's happening here? Inform intent, okay, with the entity resource type book. All right, yep, that's what I'm looking for. And it's been set, so the slot value has definitely been set, and it is resource underscore type in the stories as well, right? Resource underscore type book, yeah. Tracker now has 9 events. There is no memorized next action. There's no memorized next action. There's no applicable rule. And so we're getting the fallback. This is very odd. I know someone in the forum recently was having the same problem. So let's try maybe doing some interactive learning and see if we can figure that out. This is yeah, and it's just listening because it's gotten the default fallback. This is unexpected. Not a huge fan. And I have to look up the Rasa CLI interactive learning. I'm just in the Rasa docs looking at the command line interface information. Actually, I guess I could do that in this window. All right. See all the results? Ain't none. All right. Oh, there it is. It is spelled out. Okay. Oh, it's just Rasa Interactive. Well, that's fine. Interesting. Nick says, what is the value of the default fallback? I believe the default fallback is just do nothing. Just listen. Don't say anything and be like, what do you want? Tell me in different words, I guess. And it was I think the thing that you're asking is like, what degree of uncertainty caused the default fallback to be triggered? And I want to say it was like 0.3, which is pretty reasonable. That is a value where you would want the default fallback to occur. Let me see if I can find where it is in here. Yeah, it's a pretty low It's a pretty low confidence, which tells me that no answers for what to do next were particularly helpful. In the config file. Yeah, I don't think I set the I don't think I set the fallback threshold, but I mean 3 is like very low. 0.3 is very, very, very low. So let's try adding a couple more stories and see if that helps. So what we're doing now is we're just having an assistant conversation with our assistant, and I can change what's happening based on my on what's happening. Are all the entities labeled correctly? Yep, that looks good to me. Bridget says, can we create an AI-based chatbot that's not rule-based with Rasa? Yes, actually, we just added rules because a lot of commercial customers had various use cases that use them. But by default, instead of using rules, we have you learn from sample conversations using, for example, the TED policy. And this is correct. Yep, the next thing that we want to do is ask about the type of resource. So what I'm doing now is I'm having a conversation that's providing additional training data. A legal chatbot. I mean, yeah, you could. The bot wants to do action listen. Yep, that's correct. I do want to do that. I will say that, I'm not a lawyer. I know that legal stuff is like very specialized and easy to mess up with. So if you are working with anything in the legal domain, I would definitely recommend working with a lawyer. How to save a conversation. So the conversations that people have with your assistant should be saved to the tracker store automatically, and you can just go look at them there. Yep. So I'm going to say book, which should be extracted as an entity. Yes, yeah, that's correct. And this is where we run into trouble. No, please do not do that. What should be the next action of the bot using the arrow keys? Query resource type. Do I have an action server up? Yes, okay, good. Right. I think at this point, I'm ready to be done with interactive learning. Incremental training. There we go. Check out the docs for interactive learning. I've only done it in Rasa X previously. Save test story, conversations, when to run tests. Okay, that's not very helpful because I'm using the command line, but I think we should be good. Yeah, thank you, Chris. If you want to add a live agent, that's something called handoff. So taking the the conversation that someone's having with an automated assistant and then kicking them over to a real person. And we have an example of bot-to-bot handoff, obviously, because we don't have somebody just sitting around to be there as an example in the help desk Rasa starter pack. And we might actually have done some additional pieces of content around that I'm not remembering at the moment. They'd probably be on the blog. But the Rasa Help Desk Starter Pack is a sort of like commercial grade, very fully featured assistant. And one of the things that it sort of shows you how to do is hand people off between, in this case, assistants, but it could also be a person. All right, and then stop. No entities. I don't have a handoff tutorial ready. Different priority. I'm just trying to figure out how to stop the interactive learning. Control C to exit. Okay. And export and quit. Yep. Yep. All right, so now we should have, if we look at our stories, we should have a new story here. Fantastic, interactive story 1, where someone is asking for a resource, and I don't actually need to do this intent. So now that we've added new training data using interactive learning, let's really quickly retrain our assistant and then try talking it to the shell again and see what happens. Can I save my chat conversations when using on the custom UI? The chat conversation will be saved on your Rasa server in the tracker store. So there's a big section in the docs on sort of stuff on the Rasa server, so I checked that out. I want to create a bot that can help giving legal advice. We need to train the bot on legal data, so we can do this in Rasa. I mean, you can, but again, I would be very careful giving legal advice in an automated way. Like that's something where, like, if your bot makes a mistake and somebody like takes that as legal advice and then they get into trouble, you could get into trouble. Just like a bad situation all around. Oh, we got an error. All right. Line 1 has an error. And then also line, what was that? Line 23 has an error. So let's check it out. Yep, so it do. Oh, there we go. Okay, so that should be in line now. Fantastic. I don't know what's wrong with line 1. I guess I'm just gonna get rid of the version information. You don't actually need it. So that might be helpful. All right, let's try it one more time. Can I save my chat conversation when it's using a custom UI? I mean, if you want to share a conversation, show a conversation in a custom UI, that's like, it's going to be, you know, your own thing. They're shared they're saved in Rasa X, but the Rasa X like interface to show you the conversation is just coming from the information that's stored on the Rasa server. Enrique says, we know, no GPT-3. What I do is it line 2, column 2, book mapping start. Stories. Nick says, try deleting your model and retraining. Oh, that's a good idea. As you might see, I have quite a few models. Let's actually delete everything that we've trained today. peace out. And try retraining, although that's one space, that's one space, that's one space. Syntax looks right to me. That's one space. Ah, aha. Yes, yes. All right. All right, are these right? Nope. Is that right? Let's find out. All right. All right. That was fixed. Yeah, it looks like that. Well, I mean, I fixed the syntax errors, and hopefully this will also fix the problems we've been having with our stories not doing well. How can we put the result on a dispatcher if I call a function from another file? Oh, you mean like multiple files in your action server? I haven't actually worked with an action server that has like a super complex setup. Yeah, I don't know what the syntax would look like for that off the top of my head. Can I collect a database if I have a large data set? Yeah, that's what we're doing now. Well, this was a database that your user is querying. Which pipeline is best in number of epochs? Can you please suggest what to write in the config.yaml? It depends. So we've, as of 2.2, we suggest a default setting for your config. It really depends on your language and what models you're using, and specific featureizers require specific tokenizers, so they all need to match with each other. And like the only way to figure out what the best number of epochs is for a specific data set is to, try it a couple different times. Yeah. Yeah, and there's a bunch of, so the NLP for Developers series in this Rasa channel has a bunch of information on the different parts of the pipeline and the config file that should be helpful. All right, let's see if we fix our problem. I want to learn NLP. Yeah, okay, so good. So far, so good. Fantastic. Fantastic. Yeah, and I think we actually do have an NLP book, but I think that it's because I wrote book and not books, and I think that it is books, plural, in the database. Okay, fantastic. So I think adding the interactive story and retraining and maybe deleting the old models, thanks for the hint, seems to have solved our problem, and now it's working. Yeah. Hitesh says, it's named Too Many Intents. So the Too Many Intents video is another live coding that's just reducing your total number of intents, and I think that'll really help. I remember that you asked a question and you had like a lot of intents, and I think reducing the number of intents is going to be your best bet. How to add one lack data? I don't know what that is. All right, so it's about time to wrap up. We did not do what I was hoping to do because we spent some time debugging, but I think that's okay because now I think I can go answer that person's question that had a question. So that is going to be it for today. Next week, there will not be any live coding because it is the Rasa Summit. Yay, Rasa Summit. Let me pull up the summit information. So there'll be a lot of really great talks from a bunch of people. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm giving a talk. the CTO and the CEO, Al and Alex, are both giving talks. Tom's giving a talk. Maddie's giving a talk. We're all sort of in the Rasa team, and then a bunch of people like from other teams. Like Heather's amazing. She's at T-Mobile. Just lots of people. Will, who's a Rasa hero. He just got his hero thing announced. So lots of really good talks from really great people. Should be a good learning opportunity. And I will try and find really quickly, if I can do it, the link, the community link to register for the thing, the Rasa Summit. And so that'll be next week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Overlaps with the stream, so we're not going to be doing the stream. But it should be... That's the wrong one. So I'm just trying to get the link to put in the chat while I am here and thinking about it, so I do not forget. Ah, beans. Now, if I thought about it, I would have the link all good to go every time before I started the stream, but unfortunately, that's just not where I am today. Well, I don't have it, so I'll post it later. Daniel says, stream yourself watching the summit. That seems weird, but yeah, I will be watching the summit. If you're there, I'll probably be in the audience, like sneaking around. Yeah, so thank you so much for joining today, everybody. I hope you had fun. Yeah. Oh, I'm glad you could join live, Mark. Nick says, deleting the model always helps me. Good to know. Good tip. A lock is 100,000. Rajat says, can we train a chatbot that takes basic info from a user and can generate contracts automatically? I could maybe use a bot to take in the information for contract generation. I mean, you could do that. I don't know. That seems like another area where like you could get into trouble. Again, legally. I'm not a lawyer. I know that it's very easy to do legal stuff wrong in a bad way. Oh yeah, and here's the all the talks that they're gonna be giving. Mine is very last on the very, very, very last day. If the training data set is larger, how can I train it? I want an API which automatically adds all the stories, response, and all. I mean, you can definitely you can build a parser that'll take stuff from a data set to the Rasa story format, but when you train the assistant, we are expecting that the stories are going to be in the YAML format. How can I reduce it? The client wants all questions. Is there another way to make an FAQ chatbot? A response selector could be a good way. So with a response selector, a question that is asked is a single intent, and then which question it is sort of handled down the line a bit. And I guess the thing I would ask your client in this situation, not every question is going to be asked the same number of times, right? There will probably be 1 or 2 questions that are asked the majority of the time, and then other questions will be more rare. And what I would do is, if you have the information about sort of like what questions are asked most commonly, I would sort of, plot number of times asked versus question. Is probably going to be some sort of logarithmic decay, just because of how language works. And I would sort of look at the elbow and be like, hey, so we could spend, extra time and money and work on these, 50% of questions that get asked maybe once a day, or we could spend that time and money focusing on these questions that get asked more often. And when somebody asks something that we detect might be a rare question, we can send them to a website that has all the answers to the rarer questions. And that'll save us, time and money. So that would be sort of how I approach that problem. But yeah, that sounds like a development challenge. Yeah. So the summit is not free. The summit is paid, but we do have a link that I'm trying to find. Sorry, that's what I was doing before I got distracted. I'm trying to see if I can find the link. That's from the one last year. I'll post it in the comments of this video. I'll go and find it afterwards, so you can use that. All right, thanks for joining, everybody. I will see y'all at the summit, or next week on Wednesday we'll be back for another Rasa Office Hours, and I believe that one's actually going to be with Liam, and it'll be less focused on building assistance, and Liam is the head of HR here at Rasa, so it's gonna be more about like any career questions, any job questions, hiring stuff you're curious about, so get your questions ready for that. All right, have a great weekend, and I will see you at the summit or the week after.